All right, we should be live.
All right, groovy. Hello, everyone.
How you doing today? All right. Why you go first? Why you're the technically the guest, even though we're just here sitting, chopping it up, talking each other by each other's poems.
Why I got to go first?
I'll go first. I'll go first.
You woke up before me.
Here we go. Sundown, Levittown, Fort Apache, Dirty Harry, John Wayne, Blackface, Minuteman, Moynihan, Gone with the Wind, Breaking Bad. Washington Redskin, Confederate flag, the sword, the dollar, the cannon, the scholar, the cavalry, and the Ivy League. History is written by lightning as the rising smoke of burning village. The ways and means victors keep their victims. A frontier thesis of notes on the state of Virginia extraction, expansion, the Winnie the West, Lewis and Clark, Smith and Wesson. I'll circle the wagon with bloodshed and slave sweat, the crack of the whip. The law of 3/5, the Crown Republic of King Cotton, the intended failures of Reconstruction, the housing covenants that greeted great migrations is the same to the Mexicans in poor Mexico. So far from heaven and so close to Monroe Doctrine. To Davy Crockett. To prison industrial complex, a war on drugs is a war on our young. Bloody Christmas. Reefer Madness. 15 to life for 4 ounces, East Oakland. West Baltimore. South of La Brea and Oliver, North Plymouth Rock. Jamestown. 3 Rio Grande. Stolen lives. Stolen land.
These snaps are for you, brother.
All right, so
Now time you want to go back and forth?
Go back and forth for a minute, yeah. Then we'll bring it back around.
I go to the railroad tracks and follow them to the station of my enemies. A cobalt-toothed man pitches pennies at my mugshot negative all over the United States. There are toddlers in the rock. I see why everyone out here got in the big cosmic basket and why blood agreements mean a lot and why I get shot back at. I understand the psycho-spiritual refusal to write white history. It take the glass freeway, white skin tattooed on my right forearm, ricochet sewers near where I collapsed into a rat-infested manhood. My new existence is living graffiti. In the kitchen with a lot of gun cylinders to hack up, house of God in part, no cops in part. My body brings down to Christmas. The new bullets pray over blankets made from old bullets. Pray over the 28th hour's next beauty mark. Extrajudicial Confederate statue restoration. The waistband before the next protest poster. And by the way, time is not an illusion, Your Honor. I will save your deaths for last. You are witty, Your Honor. You're moving money again, Your Honor. It's only raining one thing, non-white cops. Then prison guard shadows reminded me of spoiled milk floating on an oil spill. The neighborhood making a lot of fuss over its demise. A new late for a Black Panther party. Malcolm X's ballroom jacket slung over my son's shoulder. The figment of village, a new noose to a new white preacher, all in an abstract painting of a president. They bought slavers some time, didn't it? The tantric screeches of military boats and election Tuesday cars, a cold-blooded study in leg irons inside a tornado shelter, leg irons inside of your body, proof that some white people have actually fondled nooses. As sundown couples made their vows of love over opaque peach plastic and boat action audiences. The Medgar Evers II is definitely my favorite law of science. Fondle news clippings and primitive Methodists, my arm changes imperialisms, simple policing versus structural frenzies, the elementary school script versus even wider wide spectrums, artless bleeding and the challenge of watching civilians think of terrible rituals they have around the corner. They let their elders beg for public mercy. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen these kids' heads in the arrows myself and see how much gravy spills out of family crest. Modern fans of war, what with their t-shirt poems and t-shirt guilt, and me having on the cheapest pair of shoes on the bus. I have no choice but to read the city walls for signs of my life.
That's incredible, man. All right, so let's get started. I mean, some of these lines, man, they let their elders beg for public mercy. I mean, where do you come up with this stuff?
I think I was talking to some people a couple days ago, and one interesting conclusion we came to was kind of like the idea of like actually having more than one like associator in your head. So like we think associatively, and we riff associatively. So kind of like what poetry, one of the opportunities poetry provides is the opportunity to take a few of these, because it's not just like, so we have, we have that kind of super subconscious blah blah blah, or that like rapid, take you anywhere, no rhyme or reason. Then we might have, have a kind of more of an emotional associative train that will take over, or even a kind of like a go-to, we have a grounding associative train where just like, okay, I'm whatever happens is I'm gonna go to some kind of proverb or something, or go to some kind of proverb personality, or proverb facilitating personality. I'm going, all these there's different threads of moving associatively. So like poetry is this interesting kind of almost control over it, to where you can have these kind of different strains cooperate and synthesize the line from multiple, almost like multiple flickers. I think it's just kind of like, a lot of my orientation to lines to poetry is committee almost, and even if it's not like, not like different voices waiting in the wings with different perspectives, but looking at a line through, a few different lenses before I even put it down on the page, and having different lenses tinker with it is responsible for a lot of what I come up with. How about you, brother? From where does this avalanche proceed?
I get so much of my stuff from listening to political speeches. I mean, I think that if people ask me about like poetry, like who are my influences, I mean, the reality is I pick up so much from different patterns.
My bad, time out, man. The homies is like, share. How is this not? Can you make it public?
Oh,
I don't know if it's shareable.
yeah, it's public.
Is it shareable?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because okay. Look from the chat, it looked like it might not be.
Oh,
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
that's Karina. She's telling everybody to share it for. She's telling everybody. She's encouraging.
I thought she was trying to tell us like, man, share. Back to regular.
That's my sweetie. Actually, it's funny. I met Karina the night we did that show in San Francisco.
Oh, at the lab.
At the lab, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
So y'all, owe me, owe me a meal.
Oh, well, when quarantine is over, we will get you that meal. Maybe you know that the original Joe's and the other Joe's in San Jose. There's a Joe's in San Jose, and then there's a Joe's in San Francisco, and they're like beefing or something. Did you know that?
No, what Joe's? No, what do these Joe's do? Their venue?
They're restaurants. And I was thinking about this meal, right? And then in San Jose, there's a original Joe's. I think they both call themselves Original Joe's. But in San Jose, there's a big sign on the wall that's like, "Fuck those other Joe's."
Some restaurant beef. That sounds like some Bay Area shit.
I think it's family though. I think it's family owned, and there's a
that's
deeper.
Funny.
Yeah, it gets deeper with the Joes. Yeah. So how do I write? I write. I mean, so much of it's like kind of like hearing political speeches, hearing like the rhythms and things that I pick up, right? So that's kind of the style, and the content is just whatever I decide to write about. But so much of what I do is so highly like kind of structured into like, all right, I'm gonna move from here to here to here. I'm gonna have these variations in tone. Certain different things need to happen for this thing to be complete, and so it's kind of goes through this like kind of process. So I almost approach poetry the same way like a carpenter would approach a table or something like that, or the way like like anybody, like an auto worker would approach, like, making a door or something like that. Approach it with this real kind of, approach it like work. You know what I mean? Approach it like
That's super gangster. Like that's impressive to be able to kind of like hold those kind of blueprints in the mind, structures in the mind. I can't do that. Well, I can't. As I start. Well, let me not say that I don't. It's almost like I start to see it as I go along. So it's almost like I hold my mind in a place where it's almost like I'm kind of listening at the same time that I'm sculpting, trying to like hear like, well, who is this poem? And I almost liken it to like every poem is like its own person to me, and full of and just like a person is like a convergence of contradictions and various influences and temperaments and main threads and secondary threads. Just like I'm sitting here before you, not a great big ball of various forces, but that do have some kind of leanings. That's how I experienced the construction of a poem, and so I just like it's weird. It's kind of like putting it together, but then also at the same time have almost like a questioning mind,
yeah.
or like a requesting mind, figure out okay who exactly this poem is, and then to start, then I can act more and more specifically and more accordingly, but all born of a deficiency. all born from an inability to have to create a plan and stick to it.
Yeah, well, okay, so oftentimes I would do shows with you. I would I don't know. I'd say I have like some friends who aren't really poets. They're more like in political spheres and stuff like that. But they really always encourage me as a poet to like go out and do say our truth, but say it in poetry. And some, I don't want to say they were discouraging, but some people were kind of like, well, I don't know, we like why are you doing shows with this guy? Like like he's so good, he's gonna blah blah blah. And in my mind, it was always like, one, like you don't run from the fire, you run to the fire, right? So that's one thing. But then the other thing was a lot of respect, but the other thing was that what you and I do is very different. Like what you and I do structurally is very different, and like I feel like that like when I do poetry with you and I do get a chance to do opportunity to do shows with you, I feel like it challenged me to be better at being me, not to try and be like you. You know what I mean? It's a challenge to be like if my stuff's like a roller coaster and your stuff's more like a dream, it challenges me to be better roller coaster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, no two poets are actually in the same universe.
Well, let's hear another poem. Let's hear another. Oh, it's my turn, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's your turn, man.
It's my turn. Okay, here we go. I'm the Asia-written vengeance of Alvaro Valdez, the best laid plans, Modesta, the reckoning of Santa Cruz, St. Isidro, Bisbee, Chandler, Porvenir, the blood, sweat, and tears of all that I refuse to forget. I am that unpaid debt. No sidekick, no subplot, no mascot, no ethnic study. The universe I embody, the ground above me, the sky beneath my feet. Marching las calles y las estrellas, a circular calendar, sleepy izquierdos y vera, past, the future, in the present, in la quech, all at once, because this moment I'm you, you are me, and we. Or two clenched fists that still lit fire, sacred kept, the final breath's called last fighting Aztec, laughing in the face of death, the blade of El Pachuco guarding the temple steps, the strength of memory, the promise of tomorrow. Yo soy Chicano, Chicano soy, el donde me lleves, el Chicano voy, they want you to think it's important. Critical to your rehabilitation for the way in which you entered this world. Read Thomas Jefferson, also get pregnant. Standards and practices. Curriculum and instruction, you, the product of a public education, do not interrupt, or you'll be cuffed, face first to pavement like your father, your grandfather, your mother, your nina, your tío, so you learn your lesson. It's not personal. It's all you people. So don't get mad. Don't be hurt. Don't make this political. It's economic. Objective. The law of self-interest. If we let you in, what will become of the canon, the classics, Alexander, Napoleon, who will shelve the wit and wisdom, Ben Franklin, Shelley, Shakespeare, Chaucer, Walt Whitman, from the Palmanic, starting what is miserable, inefficient Mexico with the grand mission, the new world, the noble race. You fought. You lost. You don't get to define this. It's not racism. It's progress, providence, and God willing, you filthy mongrels, it is just the way it is. Look at you. I don't see color. I see labor. Cops and robbers, guards and convicts, institutions of correction, schools that look like prisons, caged apartments where the cost of living, the cost of being brown is high as wage theft and the rent. Forget your savage tongue, I will teach you robust American love, spoon feed you spics, freedom of speech. So don't take a joke and speak to authority. I'll show you who you are in a book, and you'll believe it because I said it, now you read it, and who you question the canon, the classics, Lowry, Kerouac, walk out on the great white brilliance of Garfield, Roosevelt, Lincoln. Now listen, because it's important, the universe is a muralist. The cosmos, our self-portrait, starring Curandera, Ransante, a poet laureate, a stylist, a mechanic, the barrio dandy cruising the rings of Saturn to the travel tips of Taurus, Carrasco tearing down the curtain on Union Station, Joaquin returning triumphant, marching through halls of Tucson, mowing down leaves of grass. Fuck Walt Whitman. This is an Art Lebeau dedication. Frida, Selena, Cantinflas, Luis Rodriguez, Valdez, Sawana, Sandra Anzandua, the mighty Quinn, to all that we are and all that we've been through lifetimes and timelines, galaxies and dimensions of pride, pain and resistance. And Gothic are the solar showers and the days of living music when the people of the sun were dancing to the tune of Venezuela, and La Luna was a calavera as the ancestors welcomed the future to circular counters. Why am you are me, sitting at a desk, looking to the stars, searching for the end of a poem never began, that always was, and forever shall be.
Oh, shit. God damn. You gonna definitely get us. We definitely gonna get booted, man. They gonna shut us down.
They shut us from Zoom, so you know.
Any second now, they wouldn't let us on Zoom. They marked us on Instagram the other day, but we're gonna go down swinging. First, I must apologize to the souls of the house because I'm wearing the cheekbones of the mask only. Pill bottom, my name is yours, name tagged on the side of a factory of wrists. I mean teeth of the mask now. Back of the head of the mask now. A new phase of anti-anthropomorphism, fending for real faces stuck with one of those cultures that believes I chose this family. I'm not creative, just the silliest of the revolutionaries. My blood drying on my only jacket. The police state psychic middlemen evangelizing for the creation of an unmasses and unmedgar, blood of a lamb less racialized or awesome prison sentence. Good God, elder abuse hired for the low. Dog eat genius while a right angle is made between a point on a Louisiana plantation and a 5-year-old's rubber ball. 3 feet high and falling like a deportee plane to complete my interpretation of garden variety genocide. I'm small talk about loving your enemies a little more realistically about paper tigers and also gold. I need my left hand back. Broke my neck on a piano key, found paradise in a fist fight. And maybe I should check into the Cuba line. Watching the universe's last metronome, some call black Jacobins. They just wait. These religions will start resigning in a decade or two. Some colorfully, some transactionally in a cotton Gothic society. Class betrayal gone glasses. I mean, ironically, my window started fogging over too as I was trying to figure out which Haiti would get me through the winter, which poem houses souls, which socialist breakthroughs like taking 10 steps back and finally stillness among families. A John Brown biography would take a bow. I'd be up next to introduce Prosper the monk. I remember childhood. Remember the word childhood being the beginning. Scribbling on an amazing grace, I rented this body from some circumference of slavery. Remember being kicked out the Midwest. Strange fruit theater, lithium, and circuses, like-minded stomachs, the ruling class blessing their blank checks with levy phone, with opioid tea. Sentient dollar bills yelling to each other, pocket to pocket. Cello stands in the precinct for a company and counter-revolutionaries. My mother raised me with a simple pain. The poet loses his mind, like the room has weather. A first girlfriend, gravity. The difference between me and you is that the madness wants me forever. A pair of apartments defining both my family and political composure. Books behind my back. Bail money paved into the streets, playing euphoria, cliche. Racing for the medicine's recoil, sharing a dirty deli sandwich with my friends, black Jacobins, underground topography of grandmother's hands, psychology of the mask now, teeth of the mask again.
All of them, all forms and rounds of applause. That man, that is incredible. That is incredible. So this is your book, most recent book. You have another one as well, but
Yeah.
audience, Heaven is All Goodbyes, and
And
according.
this is yours.
Oh! All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So according to the back of this book, this is Resistance of Sound, according to Claudia Rankin. These poems somehow watch and listen without intervening, and when they ask everything. Keith Lyman, and this is balance, and the balance of these poems, one hope against another, gives us laughter, love, and hope. Nikki Giovanni. Those are some very, very impressive quotes.
Yeah, I got lucky, man. That actually that blew me away. And when I think Claudia Rankin's blurb came in first, and I was like, oh shit, like something is happening. But yeah, you know, City Lights doesn't hurt either. Like when City Lights calls.
Yeah,
you have to pick up the phone. But yeah, it's groovy, and actually, you know, I found along the way that it's kind of like it's the stamps from, you know, stamps from your big siblings, the stamps from your OGs, the stamps from legends that really is like the real trophy, you know, when it comes to this thing. And the most kind of like moving moments in this journey has been like just getting pulled to the side, you know, like, yo, what you're doing is, you know, even if it's quick, they just say, hey, what you're doing is original. That's like my favorite compliment. You know what I mean? When a heavyweight tells you you're doing something original, that always feels good. So, yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
glad
you know,
you like to look at it.
yeah. No, I've been very, very blessed to have read with Amiri Baraka.
Yeah, man, you I almost cussed you out on this live, man. You must, man. What was that like, dog?
Well, I was gonna go into let me give you a point, then I'll talk about that. But I was blessed with Amiri Baraka. I read with like I think at this point like 15 different poet laureates of cities and states and in the country. Even I've read with Herrera before. I've read with all kinds of people, but and you know and the hey, good job, young man. You're on your way, young man. All that kind of stuff like that comes along with it. But I'll be honest with you, the number one time I really felt like oh shit, like was when me and you were walking to a restaurant in San Francisco. And I was like, well, you know, like, man, like, and I just threw it out there, not like, it wasn't one of those things where you say something and expect something back. It was just like, I really, I really respect your work. And I've told people for years about how great you are. And then you said something, it just in passing, like, oh, I respect you too, man. I really like what you do. And that to me was like the biggest validating thing in like this entire time. Cause, you know, in many ways, you know, you're a contemporary of mine. And I really, you know, and I do have such, whether it was, you know, back at a time when you weren't blowing up the nation or now where you are, that never mattered to me. What mattered was I just had such a profound respect for your work, you know, and
I appreciate that. Well, you know, we should let everybody know. Let everybody know in TV land that, man, how we met in the trenches. You know, met. You know, we met at the bottom of the, you know, at the bottom of the mountain. And it was almost, you know, really almost cinematic in that, you know, though we, you know, it was a relatively small, you know, moment when we linked up or when we caught each other and had that conversation. But it really was something just kind of stayed with me, and you know, probably stayed with you too. Just like, nah, that's the guy right there. And so then just to see each other in later incarnations, it's just like it's a super trippy thing. And really like a cosmic thing. So all that to say, like, we knew each other when we were nobody. You know, it's like almost like one of those behind the music stories. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, we met in an open mic in the, you
Like
know,
a
that was
basement.
out behind a dumpster.
Basement with I remember it was tables with like cloths on it, but there was no. It was like a restaurant, but there was nobody there.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody, and nobody, nobody was that interested in what we were talking about, you know. But so yeah, man, it's you know, it's evidence of forces unseen to be able to rock with you now and to this day, you know.
To this day, man, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate that as well. Yeah, Amiri Baraka. That he was okay. So first time I met Amiri Baraka was at Lamert Park, and I was introduced to him by Ernesto Arce, who no Ernesto. I met him, but yeah, Ernesto Arce, who was a DJ over at KPFK, and he'd been hyping me up because he knew me from locally, to Amiri Baraka, who was in town promoting some events. And so I met up with them, and the first thing Amiri says to me is like, "Well, where's your book?" And I said like, "Oh, I sold them all." And he says like, "You come to meet me without your book? That's like going to a gunfight without your pistolas. You don't do that, amigo."
Yeah, no, you didn't talk to me on it.
Yeah, the first words. I got him, and then I saw him again years later in 2012 over at the San Francisco International Poetry Festival, and that was set up by Jack Hirschman to include me in that, and that was kind of that was a real big push from Jack because I really at that point in time, I mean, I'd done some things, but I didn't really merit like being invited to something like that at that point yet. So that was really kind of Jack kind of giving me a hand up. And not only did he give me a hand up just to invite me to the general thing, he actually set up a reading over at the Emerald Cafe where it was just me and Amiri. So it was like Sadio and Baraka, right? So that was kind of like that was
Man,
by the grace of Jack Hirschman. So that's how that happened.
I almost cussed you out again on the That's beautiful, man. You know what's trippy? I didn't even meet him. Like, I was coming into the New Eurekan Poets Cafe, and he was like standing outside of it, damn near like in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
I just walked past, and then we just paused. You know, you kind of like look somebody in the eye, and you can tell that y'all is both aliens, and then you just keep it moving. I mean, that was it. Like he gave me just one of those like, all right, you know, like right on. And then it did, but that's it. I got one word out there, brother. I never got to have a conversation with him more. You know, I had a similar experience with Dick Gregory. You know?
Oh yeah.
It was like this is a little salute. But man, I would have loved to be able to rock with him. Gil Scott Heron too. I would have loved to, you know. But then at the same time, I have been lucky to I got to rock with the Last Poets. That was beautiful. And I got to rock for into Saki Shange, and that was beautiful. You know. Yeah, the OGs bring you home, really ground you in what this is really made of.
And tonight you're part of a broadcast with that includes tell the audience what's going on.
Yeah, the city lights is having. You know, it's funny because it started off. It was supposed to be a fundraiser, because City Lights was in danger of closing, because of all of the shelter in place. And so it was supposed to be a fundraiser, but they did this GoFundMe that they hit their quotas, So then it changed to just like kind of a thank you performance, and it's got a lot of heavy hitters on the bill. Juan Felipe Pereira being one. going down tonight. I think you can just like I don't know exactly where the link is, but I think you just Google, City Lights performance, 4/17/2020. I think the steps will pop up.
And who put that whole thing together?
Man, my best friend, Josiah Luis Alderete, who is really a medicine man around here, poet. He got the what was speaking axolotl. I believe I'm gonna mess it up. Josiah, text me and correct me if you're watching. I believe it's the third Thursday thing.
It was yesterday, so I don't know if that's
what the hell was yesterday in the mathematical scheme of the month. Yep, third Thursday.
Yeah.
See,
it was.
I pay attention to my
people. Yeah. It was
so he but I mean he's a cold poet and actually so I started a press called Black Freighter Press, and Josiah's book is going to be the first book out the gates. Plugs, but everybody should tap in with Josiah. That's what stands out to me the most. Like he's really like a healer,
Yeah.
And the Bay Area is super blessed to have him. So he also, among other things, he works at City Lights, so he organized this reading.
Yeah, I saw Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz is gonna be there too.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Almighty.
That's some heavy hitters. That's some heavy hitters, and of course, our man Jack.
And Jack, Jack Hirschman. Also, legend.
Yeah.
Once poet laureate, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Original contemporary of all the triple OGs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember hanging out with all of them. They would go to Cafe Trieste, and then they'd break up, and then they would like go do some readings or something like that, and then they go back to Cafe Trieste, and they would break up, and then they would go to Specs. That was like kind of like every day with the North Beach.
With the North Beach aristocracy.
I remember in 2012 you came and I saw you in the audience, and I was telling everybody that's a great poet, he should be here, blah blah blah. So I
appreciate it. Yeah. You made me look good.
It was the truth though, which time has shown, Yeah. So let's do another poem.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my turn, huh? Oh, no, it's your turn. Where's my turn?
No, it's your turn, brother.
Shit. Okay. Los Angeles, City of Pigs, Keanu Cages. Database, The Thurman Tapes, The Ayers Report, Daryl Gates, Tom Bradley, Lee Baca, Willie Parker, Red Lines, Red Squads, Ramparts, Rodney King, The Thin Blue Liner, An All-White Jury, Murders Metropolis, The Kills for Appearance, The Chicano Moratorium, 84 Olympics, Crash, The Battery Ram, Crack the CIA, Twin Towers, Operation Hammer, Safe City, La Loma, Bishop, Palo Verde, Arcadia, Los Angeles City, Designed to be Divided, Postcard Paradise, Gentleman's Apartheid, Service and Protection, 41st and Central, SWAT, Watts, Sleep Lagoon, Open Shop, Open Season, The Killer of Children Take the Shot, They Were Sworn to Protect us, We Serve as Their Moving Targets, Their Bleeding Borders, Open Frontiers, The Neighborhood Threat as they shoot us, as we run, 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 as they shoot us, as we run. Jesse Romero was 14 years old, murdered by the LAPD. Los Angeles, City of Pigs, King of Cages.
That's how you feel, man. Damn. All right. Okay. Capitalists dropped 10 tons of barbed wire onto my Tuesday shift. We shot back at their chimpanzee pilot for the sport. The contractor has already smoked 3 cigars only 1 hour into my court appearance shift. Supervisor likes the smell, says it reminds him of when he ran the streets, and all I remember is we shot back. A gated puppet dances alone, bars and jigs, says I'm the happy one of Legion. Meanwhile, kids commit childhood behind wooden plaster joints, wire dodgers under this silly puppet, a silly puppet dancing for white heaven. Like weapon is a jacket in precinct holds Friday hostage. We go through a fossil jaw and see a judge. The tunnel at the end of the light. I sleep until I'm woke by dry cereal and surrender. This holding cell only needs a giant panhandler's palm to shake us coin men around. I'm breaking my fingers from my sister's bill collectors. Garage casket open. I mean, all third world parallels kill openly. Breaking my lungs from my sister's rent on the sculptor of construction desk. I miss cigarettes by mid-morning. I miss Hennessy by sundown. I miss murder by inches. $5 bills cherish my days outside, always behind. No concentration in this courtroom. Just a bunch of B-plus students living out their nightmares. How do I plead with a straight face? 2 blocks up is a reoccurring cliff, along with slavery's paraphernalia, along with the ordinary panhandler, along with ethnic parade history, along with the ethnic parade, along with 13th graders. But yeah, let's talk about the fact that 4 dead children later, I still don't have a problem beating you up in front of everybody. Let's talk about the fact that money is death. Down to my last $5 is what I call this shoe. 10 o'clock political education is what I call this dream. I got the job is what I call this blues. 2 days later is what I call a cliff. Yeah.
So you understand like dialectical materialism so well that you can be like casual about that shit. And, like, I mean, like understand that money is death. Okay, so now we're talking about like like now we're talking about like the commodity phase and how like money is just representative of dead labor, and you just like you internalize that so well that you're able to. I mean, like when you say San Francisco, apparently San Francisco was not there to begin with. There's so much about like social reproduction. I mean, it's really it's really incredible. It's really and I'm very jealous because I'll just say some shit. Like I'll just like take a quote and I'll be like, I'll say the quote, put the quote here, put the quote here, put down here. When you say the quote, slow down so everyone knows it's dramatic. Now speed up. Like you have such a deep relationship with this with your revolutionary analysis.
What's it's just crucial to do the political work before you get down to the page. Mm-hmm. And for those who are not familiar with the lens of dialectical materialism, it's a crucial lens of the world that gets us away from there's all kind of ramifications and results and threads and beauties to materialism, dialectical materialism or historical materialism. But one of my favorites is getting cats to understand that you're not fighting a concept, you're fighting people. You're not resisting a concept, you're resisting people. So, our enemies the enemy is not capitalism. Our enemy are capitalists. We don't fight white supremacy, we fight white supremacists. And then revolution or revolutionary struggle becomes it becomes a scientific thing. Because if you pit me against a concept that starts to that becomes metaphysical, then with what do I organize against something that exists in a vacuum, right?
So then you conceptualize it.
Imagine it. We can pull out our philosophy rifles and shoot metaphysical bullet, But now, if we look at things in terms of like, okay, well, what it, contradiction is a social contradiction is just a relationship between two groups of people in a struggle for power. And in our case, a ruling class or a white establishment, white ruling class trying to dominate us. Well, they are specific people doing specific things that we can counter and organize against in specific and scientific ways. And what's groovy is, although it might even seem counterintuitive, because it seems like poetry might have this kind of air that, oh, it's this poetry is metaphysical, or is a metaphysical experience, or if you're using like images that just couldn't take place in the physical universe, is that not metaphysical and this type of thing? But actually, what poetry is just a tool for another tool, actually, for analyzing the material reality of what's going on in society. And so being grounded in a materialist understanding of society is crucial for actually for creating lines and images that actually are good or educational for people's consciousness, and strengthening people's spirit, especially the spirit of resistance. And even and even just again, like or then just a shorthand, like to have poetry of any kind of political existence, you have to have a political existence before you even pick up the pen,
Yeah.
So it's just like it all then, but then it all becomes one praxis. All that to say, like, art and struggle don't by nature contradict, right? Diverge or compete. Art and struggle don't compete with each other. They really complement and can be one and part of one human experience. That's in a way a de-alienating force. So so we live in a capitalist, imperialist, late stage capitalism society. We know that we live in compartments. Like, this is me doing what I want to do. This is me doing what I have to do. And ultimately, here are the pieces I sell. Here are the pieces of myself that I sell in order to survive. Or here are the pieces of myself that I mute in order to survive. Right. So, but when you're living in a revolutionary process, as supplemented by processes of creating art, you're actually unifying these compartments within yourself, or breaking down the walls of these compartments and saying, no, I'm going to be a human being. I'm going to belong to myself, and I'm going to belong to my people.
Yeah.
Word up.
What can be said? I'm gonna do a poem. The rich. Well, they're not like you and me. They see an opportunity, they grab it. Reach for the stars and they put them in their pocket. Company stays in the red, but they're backed by the government. Snort the public dime into lines of pure profit. Research and development. The rich, well, they're a different breed. Champagne wishes and caviar dreams, thoroughbred stallions, quarter billion mansions on the sea, Deepwater Horizon, blood diamonds, golden parachutes, silicon messiahs, feasting on endangered species, served on silver platters and winter palaces carved from the tips of icebergs, six-figure charters, vulture capital, million-dollar cufflinks, spoken life like an apple, insured by suicide nets, lifestyles of the criminally negligent, but you haven't lived. So you've launched a car into space for no fucking reason. The rich, well, here's how it is. Dollars and cents. Trademark and rent. Facts and figures, lines and alleged derivatives and debt. Building the future, increasing productivity, union busting back to the 100-hour work week, trimming the fat, producing monopolies, doing money, shortage, and bets. And that, my friend, is how the rich stay rich while the rest make poor decisions in its pure ecstasy. Living in the lap of luxury, pushing pharmaceuticals to mark up the market will bear your body to its altar at a life or death bargain. The gospel of wealth, because it is what it is, and that's all it's ever been. The less we spend, the more we keep. You see, the rich and the poor, well, they're just like you and me. 2 hands, 2 feet, The sky, the sea, and everything between, with a heart that beats in time to make the most of us. You'll find no sympathy reaching into these deep pockets. All we ever asked was our fair share, and God damn it, that's all of it. So we out on the streets screaming for peace and justice. We sleep in satin sheets, dreaming free and guiltless over oceans and tariffs, liquidating pensions. They don't have to bid on porcelain and portraits at billion-dollar auctions. You know you need us. You know we're selling your secrets. You know you still send us DNA kits, watching the puppets on television debate freedom, free speech, fascism, democracy, while we're reaching the earth, punch the ozone, and fuel the economy with space stations. Yes, space stations, hydrating the red planet. We're going to survive this lava pit. So you got pots and pans, we got deeds and plans. Chopping down rainforests, colonizing the moon. We're the rich. Who the fuck are you? Who privatize the water supply and then copyright the tears falling from your eyes? Burn it all down? What the hell are you talking about? The ice caps already melting. You want to start some shit? Eat the rich? We're already killing your kids. One carbon footprint, one gas house emission, one oil rig, one naval ship, one free trade agreement at a time. We'll get away with it too. Nothing we say or do is ever held against us. Having been paying attention, we're rich.
That's how you feel.
So what I learned is that like doing this thing to like laptops and phones is you can like be your own music video director. Like, you know, like start moving around and yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. Okay. All right.
Your turn.
We're gonna straggle on behind you. You know, I'm off to make a church bell out of a bank window. Kitchens meant more to the masses back in the day, and before that, we had no enemy. Somewhere in America, the prison bus is running on time. You're gonna want to lose your job before a revolution hits. Somewhere, I won't be home for breakfast. Everyone out here now knows my name, and I won't be turned against for at least 4 months. The cop in the picket line is a hard-working rookie. The sign in my hands is getting more and more laughs. It says, the picket line got cops in it. I can take care of those windows for you if you want, but someone else has to go inside your gas tank. It was clear to the man that rich people had talked too much this year. Why don't you go ahead and throw down that marble park bench everyone's looking up at? You know, get the fucking Romans out of your mind. Maybe a good night's sleep would have changed the last 20 years of my life. Playing an instruments like punching the wall. What would you have me do? Replace the population? Give brotherhood back to the winter? Stop smoking cigarettes with the barely dead? You know, listen in on the Sabbath. Police called the police on me. There was a white candlestick beneath my detention. I ruined the soup again, thought the judge as he took off his pilgrim robe behind the white people's door and more. I didn't get lucky. I got what was coming to me, he told. Hey, fight me back, the man said, and of course to himself, washing windows with a will to live, tin can on his left shoulder, enjoying the bright brand new blight with all party goers, both supernatural and supernaturally down to earth. The fuck is this elevator traveling side to side? Like 1,000 bitter Polaroid pictures that you actually try to eat. All the furniture on this street is nailed to the cement, cheap furniture, but we have commitment. And this morning, an essay opens a conversation between enemies. Why? Because you control every grain of processed sugar between here and the poor man's border. Because in the tin can on my left shoulder, I can hear the engines of deindustrialization. You should get the painting, you know. Tell lies more deeply. And this month, I'm rooting for the traitor. Carting cement to my pillow here, we will build. I'm high again, not talking much. And once you climb up the organ pot to our apartment floor, I'm high again. Calling everything church. Sing along to a courtyard thanks to a horn player's holy pastime. I mean, I'm just putting a real jacket on it. Talking about a real 5 years. Keep memories like these in the pocket next to the toll receipt. You know, that man lost the wager with the God of good causes. I mean, stood up for himself a little too late. Maybe too early. I can still see 20 angles of his jaw zigzagging through the cold world of deindustrialization. There's an art to it. I will tell my closest friends one day. Mm-hmm. Pow, pow, pow.
Thrones of blood. Thrones of blood, chambers of sweat, minister of commerce, minister of finance, columns of debt, the laws print. Its right is script. High priests preach the evangelical canons aim steady, the doctrines of famine, prosperity, war is progress. Property is sacred, starvation is the market, your mouths are reckless, look at the gates. They are blood ready. Captains of industry. Lords of limited liability. Well-dressed murderous thieves, the modern kings of corporate speech walk among us. as loaded guns, chambers locked full of legal teams and legalese, and just enough finely printed legal degrees of separation to wash their teeth clean predators. In every sense of the word, it is a wolf's run. The night, capitalists gather around a bonfire to listen to the servant's song. How vain are we? How vain are we, us composed of cosmic dust, set beneath the stars to chart our brief chaotic lives by time it takes our small, fragile, distant eyes to finally see the light. Praise be the sky. Praise be the day and praise be the night. With your steps moonlit, press your face to the wind, let the harvest drink you in. Blessed be our lungs, oh how our lungs have blessed us, your body, conduit between breath and the divine. Praise be the vine. Praise be the joy it brings to your eyes. At this, both guests and hosts were pleased. At a servant, clever and observant, unburdened by the groundbreaking decisions that set the shoulders of titans, and who better than one given to a life as service to serve as a reminder to breathe easy. How forgetful are we? How forgetful are we, our tongues dripping, tripping over one another, touch up monuments, climb ladders of success, deliver the speech of self-made men. Oh, how we forget. The very soil we walk upon has been tilled by many hands, that even the tree's tallest branch grew from the same seed at the root. At this, both guests and hosts were amused. At a servant, humble yet with sense of purpose, and who better than one given to a life of service to serve as a reminder of the divine order of all things. How tragic are we? How tragic indeed our whole lives, boulders and mountains, and the drive to make sense of them, oceans to conquer, soils to bleed, and to each a plot of sun, a job to be done. Please, please, as we push this rock together, do not strike at us so mercilessly. At this, neither guest nor host were pleased. The night had become political. For what good is a servant whose demands exceed their purpose? The capitalists cried out, have we not been good to you? Have we not given you all that you have in all your years of service? Have you not heard? Have you not learned? The law is threat. Its right is death. Your mouth is reckless. Look at the gates. Supreme justice reigns upon us. In the servant's quarter, the servant's daughter sings a different song. One of blood and conquest, fire and vengeance, dawn in the horizon of a new day arising, dreams of Hacienda and burning, reeds of the gallows, the guillotine, firing squads, and basement full of Romanovs. In the servant's quarter, the servant's daughter sings a different song. She laughs. She weeps. She dreams. She speaks with the others. And with each passing day, they grow strong.
I talk facing away from the dead. They replace me with the change in my pocket. A penny that's yet to be invented. They say you have to know how to cut a throat on the way to cutting a throat. After sleeping on a mattress made from 2 garbage bags of clothes, I became content with the small gestures of plantation fires. Playing with couch ashes, I realized how weird the universe was. It exists in so many places, so many random things. It interrupts me while I'm trying to dream, like your clay correspondence, Lord. To be transparent, I have 20 books next to a bullet, like an old man giving advice at the beginning of a revolution. I've really done it, Lord. Explored the mumbles of my mind, explored what's naturally there, and I found no brainwashing. I found Africa, Lord. I have a future. It takes place in the diasporic South. I have morning possessions, modern militancy. I mean, windows to the South. I'll walk on a missile for food. I guess you will not want flowers for a few years, Lord. Will I be tied face to face with the country I murdered merged with us, Lord? Our old metal versus new metal, our old metal versus a pool of meandering imperialist faces of multiculturalism of sorts. The dead replaced me with a comedian's chest cavity. Instead of a chest cavity held tight, it takes a violent middleman for me to talk to myself. Stories that travel through other people's stories. A song about a song, a hemisphere about a hemisphere. Stories that travel through a conquered poet. And my mother remembers Africa, Lord. She killed on behalf of you, Lord. I wore a machete all winter and no one asked me what it meant. I read 1,000 books in front of the world. You know, what I do is fight poems and sleep through decadent San Francisco prayer circles, watch people play for post-working class associative surfaces, recreations of the governor's desk, ruling class or the utility plant, find a sociopathic bureaucrat. The day that some white people scare even easier. TV in a basket next to a ceramic baby. Wearing ceramic armor, musket progeny fantasizing through the art of the poor. Their trendy latches locked before God. Black art hunted down like a dog. A hand over my friends, Lord. Lord, I think I'm going to die in the war. Unelected white people in my small house like a blues song of no spiritual effect, a dollhouse H-bomb, pony show near dead bodies, apartheid weddings that go right, apartheid white people who give birth to mathematicians, the spiritual continuity of barracks and police stations, chemical interpretation of a Sunday trip to church, church meals in their pockets, a river mistaken for a talking river. No autobiography outside of small personal victories of violence and drug use, made in the image of God's trinkets, who white abolitionists confided in their children about, chemical assurances that they would switch from black artist to white artist, black God to white God, black worker to white worker. I think about you cautiously, Lord. In the same way I think about my childhood, Lord. Foxhole Friday nights, most of life is mute. A comedian points out a planter's field to a priest. King Sugar Cane, King Cotton, King Revolutionary, the Bible Essential, containing all modes of shallow introduction, introducing an unlisted planner class speaking about fevers and balance sheets and reassuring the masses that we can figure out our fathers later. A priest took my mother lightly, Lord. Stood in front of parishioners, re-raveling fantasies about black art. Priest reading confidently before I broke him and broke his parallel. After today, I've never been a poet before. A little brother watches his big brother's friends. They lean rifles on sheltered walls. They agree with me and call it literature. It's a simple matter, this revolution thing, to really lie to no one, to keep nothing godlike, to write a poem for God.
That's great. That's fantastic. We got some questions. Maybe we should start answering them. I don't know, but
yeah,
then we'll look at the questions.
All right.
Or why don't we look at the questions? Well, the questions. How long does it take to write a poem for you typically?
My practice is I just write 2 hours a day. You know, it's funny. I was just been recently kind of came to the expression to sit down. Don't sit down and write a poem. Just sit down and write poetry. So I put the clock on 2 hours and that's just like, just creation. And then there's a go back for a second wave and see where the poem actually is and fasten it together. So I can't really tell you exactly how long it takes to write a poem. It's just like poems are just really just an offshoot of a general effort to just keep the pen moving, and then go back and see what can be constructed. Yeah. And I swear that's just the God's honest truth. That's not a Hollywood answer. That's not a politician's answer. That's just how it is.
Yeah. So for me, I actually have like a cork board over there. I have an easel over here, and I've written all these things out. Like, okay, I'm working on 3 poems right now, right? And one of them is called Camelot, one of them is called Vanderbilt, and the other one's called Precarious Rex. And each of them have an Act 1, an Act 2, and Act 3. And each section demands its own details, its own research, its own thing, right? So I have Act 1 of Camelot done, right? That's done. And I know what comes in Act 2, so I have to work on Act 2 now. And right now I'm in the research processing stage. And for that, I'm looking at the history of Los Angeles. Now, I know the history of Los Angeles. I know the things I want to write about, but what I'm looking for in this research are key phrases I'm going to take out of the literature on this and juxtapose them against like some general lines of poetry and other lines of research I pulled. So like, my work is full of like all kinds of like pulled lines directly out of scholarship, directly out of other just books I read or conversations, and they're directly pulled from there, and then they're put into juxtaposition with each other, right? So I'm not really that much of a wordsmith. What I do is I juxtapose all kinds of things, and so that's kind of the process of writing Camelot. But Camelot begins, this is a Molotov tossed towards Camelot. This is Paradise 1, the rise of the sixth sun, this myth that is legend, a sense of direction when you can't trust your senses. Materially, historic, and dialectic, mysterious until it isn't. It is written for the now past, present, and future generations. Count 7. This and that shit that don't knock until you try today's hypothesis, tomorrow's science, that which remains the same in a state of constant change, in a fit of rage, in a jilted state, in a gilded age, the spark that lights the flame in these decades-made days, the risk of sounding ridiculous. It's that post-industrial proletariat spitting back through knowledge, eat the rich. History will absolve us. So now that's a pretty good Act 1. So I can't have a whack-ass Act 2.
Yeah, that's smart.
That I can't have. So I need to do a lot of research and really treat Act 2 with the same respect as I've treated Act 1 to go to Act 3. And so that's kind of how I do it. So it takes me a while sometimes. Other times it comes pretty naturally, but I always know that I have to have one, an information set, and two, a journey of tone. You know, I have to take you on a tone journey. So we were happy, then we were sad, then we're happy again. We were like sad, and then we were hopeful, and then all hope got fucking crushed. And so we were sadder than we began. So whatever it is, I got to take you on a journey of tone, so you have a kind of a complete experience. You know, I'm a magician. I'm a sleight of hand. I'm a con man. I'm a song and dance man. I wish I was. I wish I had that kind of. I wish I had your integrity. I just don't. I'm just trying to get shit done.
Man, I wish I had your fucking effort, man. Like I wish I had your powers of exertion. I'm kind of path of least resistance. That's why it's so crucial to kind of like to do the work. Let's not use the master's tools as far as language to call it work. That's where you have to engage in the struggle. You know, before like that's what you know I rely on the political activity and the and all the other just kind of practices before I get down there, because when I'm down there I don't stand a chance. I can't. Once I get down on the page, you know, I can't put up much of a fight. I can't fight myself.
So we got another question here. It says, were either of you once rappers or songwriters or any other kind of artists?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I was a poet first. Was trippy. So I was a poet first. Well, actually, when I was in elementary school, my brother Biko, who actually did the cover or does the cover art on all of my books, and is a poet, actor. He's in New York right now, thick with the acting right now. But back in elementary school, we had a rap group called Black Fire. That was we would spit nothing but our little political raps, you know. So I started true to the revolutionary art. But I was a poet, like from 18 on. The poetry was kind of my main output. But then I did at a certain point made like 100 songs, 100 rap songs, and it was groovy for the process because it's almost like my poetry was very much first person camera angle, and at a certain point, the objective was to snap out of that, and I wanted different narrators, and it almost required those 100 songs to give that voice its due. A lot of times, you can achieve your like artistic objectives or creative objectives by letting what you don't want to do anymore just run its course. And so in the course of those songs, that first person camera angle just, got run into the ground basically. But yeah, I did put a lot. It was like a year or two. It's just like, that was like my only activity. Like just go to the studio and make these songs. But yeah, I know my way around the booth.
Yeah. You also play guitar, right?
I do. That's like more recent. It was really trippy. Like I got into this like car accident that busted up my left shoulder pretty bad. And at the time I was actually like up into the accident, I was like fairly physical. Like working out regularly and enjoying that, and that being kind of a meditation in its own right. When the car accident took me out, I picked up the guitar really because to replace that, or to give me that opportunity to still express myself physically. So it was actually more like something for my hands to do. But then it turned into this whole journey.
Yeah.
That a whole beautiful journey. It's also groovy just to kind of like teach an old dog a new trick, or just to start from scratch with something, learn something from scratch, or do something that you initially like that you're not natural at, so it's been good for that part of the brain too, the part that just needs to learn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mostly just write poetry. I mean, I write essays too, but I don't know if that would really. I don't know if that falls in the same category. But, writing the essays and stuff like that. I used to run the Southwest Political Report. Now I'm doing Telejaguar. So I mean, written for like Black Agenda Report, Telesur, a few other places. So I've done.
I got on there too, and I got on Black Agenda. I got some essays as well. Man, it was not. It's because, man, Black Agenda Report is just like like to me one of the top sources of information, and so when they picked up one of my essays, actually I published it it was published by a different site. They picked it up. Like, I just woke up one morning and it was on there. Although I think my mother might have pulled a string.
Yeah, you gotta get by with a little help. Yeah.
I'm like a revolutionary blue blood. I'm a revolutionary heiress. We got money in the bank. we got a revolutionary effort. We got a revolutionary effort in the bank around here,
Yeah. Rev equity.
Right. Rev equity, man.
Yeah. What have been some unexpected influences on your creating pieces, if any?
The most beautiful thing about this journey is just seeing how much you can pull from anywhere. I probably do on some, like, as a student of art, I probably digest other disciplines maybe 500 times more than I actually pull from poetry, that I see other people's poetry. But it's just like looking at the dancers, looking at the actors, looking at the musicians, looking at the painters. So it's just like, all kind of random. There's these dancers, these twins, they go by Les Twins, and they might be the hardest contemporary art moving right now. To tell you the truth, of this era, they might, you can get a lot, you can lift a lot of strategies, checking them two cats out, but yeah, all kind of random stuff. I mean, but then I've been on a serious bebop kick. I've been on a serious Coltrane kick recently. The beauty of this art is that you can pull all over the place.
Yeah. I watch things. I'm always looking for patterns and structures and things that I can use, right? So I'll watch a film and I'll be like, okay, what scene followed what scene? I'll watch it and I'll enjoy it, but then I'll go back and watch it and be like, all right, first scene's here, the next scene's here, this is here, this is here, this is here, this follows this thread was used here, 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 and here. I like that. I don't like that. Whatever. And it doesn't even matter what the content of the movie is. It could just be like a fun, like the movie Knives Out, right? Which is kind of just a fun, there's some politics, but it's very surface level. But I'm not really looking for the content. I'm looking for like the structure of it, right? I'm like, okay, they introduced this happened here, this happened here, this happened here. This person made a joke here, and later it's going to come back to haunt him here. Just like looking at like how the foreshadowing of it worked, right? And how it begins. In the beginning, she has this cup. It says, "My house, my rules," or whatever. At the end, she's holding the cup, and there it was, right? And so, how do I feel about that? How do I feel about beginning ending the way you began? And I'm like, I kind of like it, but I kind of don't. I kind of like ending in a way that would kind of popped up in the middle, so it foreshadows that. You know what I'm saying? So my foreshadowing usually will have like a one word. It'll be like, and here's Homo la Reina. And she's suffering, right? And by the end of the poem, all hail la Reina, the once and future queen. So now la Reina returns empowered. Another example would be Pilgrim. It says like, um, uh, it says honest Indians and Christian pilgrims, they're a nation of immigrants, all united in freedom until they pulled aside my white friend, pointed directly at me. So it's all suffering, right? By the end of the poem, who you calling immigrant? Pilgrim, right? So then by the end it returns, but the phrase returns with power. And so like it's introduced in pain and ends in power. And that's the kind of thing I like to do. So I like to pull in the middle. So like that's kind of like, so watching that movie, I'm watching that beginning. And I'm like, well, maybe for variation, maybe sometimes I should end how I began. So I'm watching Knives Out and thinking, do I think that's effective, or would it have been effective to introduce that cup a little later on? Maybe instead of not in the first 30 seconds, in maybe like 10 minutes in. And I kind of feel the answer is yes. So I mean, like that'd be my only criticism of the way that movie was constructed. I mean, the movie itself is just kind of fun, but like the way it was constructed, because it was constructed really well. So the way it was constructed, how do I feel about that? The most unexpected thing I ever got, though, was I wanted to write a poem about gentrification, and I ended up writing this poem called "Defend the East Side," which has the sights and sounds of all of what's.
I love that poem.
Well, thank you. But it's got El Sereno in it. It's got City Terrace in it. It's got Lincoln Heights. It's got Boyle Heights, and it's got East LA proper, right? So it's got all those different places and different parts of it. And there's all these references and components of just different places. Semillas is a school. Talking about Los Puntos, the market, all these different little references to it. But I wanted to take the ordering of these references into a narrative arc that was a kind of a life and death cycle. So in Act 1, we're going to remember the dead. So I'm talking about my uncle dying in City. We have a funeral in City Terrace. No ice on the overpass. That's the sign you see. Then I talk about going to El Tepeyac, and then there's no shot. The shot on the countertop. So all these like references to that. And in the middle, it starts about starting a family. So that's when you get a wedding dress off Whittier Boulevard. Then you get like a reception at La Raza, which is Plaza de la Raza over in Lincoln Heights. And then by the end, remember me when I'm dead, right? So it says, remember long after I'm gone and the children grown, Corazon Mariachi. Let's talk about Mariachi Plaza, talking about this venue, Corazon de Pueblo, that was open for, 7 years, a very legendary space in the history of Boyle Heights, and making reference to that and making reference to the kind of reunion shows they sometimes put on in Mariachi Plaza, right? So I'm making reference to all these different things, but it's going through this life and death struggle. I mean, life and death cycle. And I got the idea of a life and death cycle, which is a universal story told all over the world about remembering the dead, final ending, remembering when I'm dead. But I got the idea from Sting's Fields of Gold once I figured out what the song was about. I was like, this fool is dead, and he's talking about you're going to remember me after I'm dead. And so I just looked at the pattern of that, and I wish it was something better. I wish I could say it was like, from our culture of, de los muertos and ofrendas, and something like that. No, it was from Sting's Fields of Gold.
Right.
Yeah. That I wrote this poem about gentrification, right? So this guy's thing, who just taking his structure. So I'll take structure from anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been a minute. So want to do a couple more poems and then close it out?
All right, we can do that.
All right, cool. So
back to you, Chuck.
The 5, the 101, the 10, Suavecito for president. A funeral procession at a city terrace, no ice on the overpass, a shot on the countertop next to Hachilaquilas, no liquor license needed, just a mourning prayer for the dead. Just a few words for the old man, so raise your glass to 60 Atlantic and the 710 to watching the Semillas grow through strollers, Los Puntos, a brick, through gentrified windows, all the better to die in your feet because life's a risk, a wedding dress off Whittier. A baptism at Our Lady, a reception at La Raza at the intersection of Mission and Disobey Trump in the shadow of Zapata. Better late than never, my love will be standing here in 50 years like fire. In memory, there are things we're protecting, like imagine long after I'm gone and the children grown, Corazon, Mariachi, watching kids flip ollies for burning effigies, America's latest flaming race like we did when our love was young, when our eyes were locked, when our hands were bond. You will remember me driving the 60, the 5, the 710, but this world still exists. This life is lived like fire, like memory, like all that is worth protecting. Defend the East Side.
Yeah, that's my shit, man. Yeah, apparently too much of San Francisco was not there in the first place. And this dream requires more condemned Africans. To put another way, state violence rises down, or still life is just getting warmed up, or army life is looking for a new church and ignored all other suggestions, or folktale writers have not made up their minds as to who is going to be their friends. You know, this is the worst downtown yet. And I borrowed a cigarette everywhere. I've taken many a walk to the back of a bus that led on out the back of a storyteller's prison sentence, then on out the back of slave scars, but this is my comeback phase. I left my watch on the public bathroom sink and took the toilet with me, threw it at the first bus I saw, eating single mothers half alive. It flew through the bus line numbered and on out the front of the White House. Hopefully you find comfort downtown. But if not, we brought you enough cigarette filters to make a decent winter coat. Special species of handshake. Let's all know who's king and what's the lifespan of uniform cloth. This coffin needs to quit acting like those are birds singing. Rusty nails have no wings, have no voice other than that of a white world dying. Their book pages in the gas pump. Catchy isn't. The way three nooses is the rule, or the way potato sack masks go so well with radio codes, or the way condemned Africans fought their way back to the ocean, only to find waves made of 1920s burnt up piano parts, European backdoor deals, and red flowers for widows who spent all day in the sun mumbling in San Francisco. Red flowers, but what's the color of a doctor visit? There are book titles in the streets. Book titles like Hero, You'd Make a Better Zero, or A Fur Coat Lady, The President is Dead, or Pay Me Back in Children. Or they hung up their bodies in their own museums. And other book titles, Pulled from a Drum Solo, Run Here, Hero, Lied the Hiding Place, All the Bullets in 10 Precincts Know Where to Go. There's no heaven nor any other good idea in the sky. Politics means the people did it and people do it. Understand that when in San Francisco and other places that was never really there. And I bet this ocean thinks it's an ocean, but it's not. It's just 6th and Mission Street. I don't know who's king. King of thin things, you know. Like America, I'm proud and deserve to die. I'm going to eat my dinner extra slow tonight in this police state candy dispenser you all call the neighborhood. No set of manners goes unpunished. Never mind a murderer's insomnia or the tea kettle preparing everyone for police sirens.
Oh. Oh. Okay. I was born on the east side of Los Angeles, across the tracks from abandoned steel and industrial petrified forest. Across the steps, a giant green tarp protected customers and gossipers, our abuelitas, from raising the sun and the bombs of birds. They spoke Spanish, full of mangoes, papayas, and cherries, my favorite. As a child, I could never quite make the connection between the broken and empty bottles across the steps and the broken and empty men poured out the rust factories from across the tracks. So my cousins and I would gather and throw rocks of dirt aimed directly for the head. And the men would yell back something like, "What do you damn kids know about life?" And we yelled back, "Take that, drunks." That was messed up. But that's just the way it was. Growing up, where Valley climbs up and over Beat Soto. El Sereno. In the 1950s, my mother's father, a technician by trade, by birth a prince among men, in a backwards kingdom that held him back, that treated him different for the radiance of his unapologetic brown skin, raised a family of 6 on a single income. There is hard-fought genius in me. Older than my mother's womb. December 18th, 1981. After months of fear and absence, my father makes his return. My aunt moves to protect hospital bed. She does not want to see you. You know what you did. It'd be best for everyone if you were just to leave. My mother holds her newborn, her only begotten son. There's a pain in me, older than my father's blood. As a child, I could never quite make the connection between his fingers around my throat and the anguish in his chest, a suffering older than my father's bones. His father's whiskey, grandfather's short temper, long-lived legacy to a history doesn't care to remember, whose beatings on our fit for scrapbooks and genealogies of pain rarely make their way to the oral tradition of campfire. There is a pain in my heart the time cannot trace. Moved out my father's, the suburbs treated me different. One day in the workforce, I told my boss, last night I met a woman, beautiful and intelligent, asked where at, Boyle Heights, where's that? The east side of Los Angeles, asks incredulous, you met an intelligent woman in East Los Angeles? I wanted to slap the cavalry from a smirk. Beat The manifest destiny out of his name badge, but needing a paycheck, I stood in the weakness of silence, the pain and anguish of generations long past, alive and sickened in my chest. There is a shame attempted upon us, older than the tongues of bigots. Walked off job, marched off lot, fist up for the cause, because in a world that has told us no, that has told us different, I've chosen yes. Yes, I am Chicano. Yes, Mexicano. Yes, indigenous, like brown skin and bleed red. Yes, unafraid and unashamed. My passion, my potential, my intelligence. Yes, the fire in my chest. Look into my eyes, you could feel its strength. And yes, as a matter of fact, some of the most radiant, gifted, talented, beautiful, intelligent women I have ever met reside on the east side of Los Angeles, just across the steps from the streets where I was born. Yes, I am all of this and more. I, like you, made of stars. You, like me, so full of pain, are brimming with genius. But no one would make you feel different.
Shit, man, you know, a lot of God can happen in 3 seconds. Not much heaven, though. And here's a man before a fight. Leave me alone type character emerging from the penniless death of a one-way street fiction. Fancy way of saying I'm gonna make it even if I have to drive backwards. All I have is chord changes and 1,000 backhands driving the street like I'm choking it. Car full of nephews. There hasn't been a sun since November. And there hasn't been a street I can't choke to death. You know, this city better back down. You see this gun on the table, and something about staring until it all feels stable. Why wouldn't I protect everyone on my death sleep late? My son better be quick. My daughter better shoot first because we fall for no one. You know, we fall for nothing. Okay, the first thing you'll feel is the heat. This lady would tell me, trying to tell me about possession and drink life need is what I'm mostly hearing. Most of the world leaves me alone to breathe small like a giant, to go to jail every once in a while. When the genocide kicks up in late May, when politicians have too easy a time, I'm guessing backwards out of one-way street, in honor of myself and in honor of you, if you understand the nature of the world. How long I've been just like my father. One hell of a resemblance says the anxiety of the neighborhood. This is a crossroads or a crossroads neighborhood, you know, narrative of so much crossroads. People get in the habit of turning back. They turn back only to find themselves remembering me, but not my last words, a man before a fight. You'll feel the heat. There's nothing to keep in mind. There's nothing to remember. Really, there's nothing to be. It's like just this moment, then another, then stare, then it all becomes stable. Then the table legs go fuzzy, and Friday's an unfamiliar face peeking in the window. It's cool to panic for a second. Composure is wasted on your worst enemies. People are marked on that sidewalk. You the only thing life-size. Everybody knows this in a wire hanger empire. When the blood stops walking, that feeling isn't father enough to be permission to fold. You better swing one more time. And that father of yours rose from the grave and said, just give me 5 more minutes. He said, running water is a myth. It's us who are running up, down, and all alongside this water. And people don't rise from the grave. They're not laid down neither. It's us who flip all around their bodies. So beware when the people around you all look like they about to jump. It might be your time. You'll feel the heat. And when 4 walls demand to be 4 walls and the earth outside moves, man, don't panic. You know, don't try to recreate the earth outside. Don't tell jokes to yourself. Don't even talk disrespectfully to the 4 walls. Instead, unclench your fists and walk away. It might be heaven if you understand the nature of the world. Yeah.
And that, I think, is the note to close on. It might be heaven. I thank you so much for joining me and chopping it up. This has been a real pleasure, real treat. Been wanting for you for a long time, man.
Right on, man. Much love, man.
Yeah. So go out, buy this book, tell people how to do it.
I'll see you out there. Well, I'll see you one day, brother.
So how do people buy the book?
Man, I think you can hop on the City Lights website. I think is the most down to earth way to order it. You know. And but everybody should go to spdbooks.org to get books. See, whatever you're looking for, see if SPD Books got it first. spdbooks.org. They support like a whole gang of small presses, you know.
All right.
And there's another one. I'm blanking, but there's now online source for that also will help. So SPD books.org for small presses, but there's a site for independent bookstores too. I'm blanking on what it is. I'm blanking.
All right. Well,
with a little bit of a search, you can get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Well, just tell me if you remember later. Just tell me. I'll put it in the comment section.
All right, right on.
Yeah. And then you get this book over here, Mowing Leaves of Grass by me. Go to flowersongbooks.com or flowersongpress.com, and you can find it pretty easily there. It's on Amazon, but don't give Bezos any money. And so that's me. A bunch of praise for the book. So thank you so much, man. I'm sure that we'll be seeing each other online, and I'm sure, before as long, we'll see each other in person again.
See you in the trenches.
All right, man.